The battlefield was a chaos of fire and metal, a storm of destruction that no one alive could have imagined. Lieutenant crouched behind a shattered pillar, his armor scorched, his lungs heavy with smoke. Across the field, the alien warships descended like dark shadows, their energy weapons carving lines of death through the human battalions. But among the chaos, there was one figure that burned brightly in his mind, a figure smaller than the soldiers around him, yet commanding attention with her silver-blue aura. She was the alien princess, heir to the throne of the United Star Systems, and she was surrounded by enemies. Hadn't been meant to be here. He was part of a human recon unit, sent to scout a planet rumored to be a meeting point for the Interstellar Alliance. But fate had other plans. When the enemy ambushed the convoy, had seen her fall behind the main group, vulnerable, her long, flowing robes catching sparks from stray energy blasts. Without thinking, without strategy, he had rushed forward, raising his shield just as a plasma bolt screamed toward her chest. The impact had thrown him backward, burning his arm, shaking him to his core, but she had been safe. Now he crawled toward her, each step a fight against exhaustion, against pain, against the chaos around him. Its wide, violet eyes found his instantly, a look of startled relief crossing her delicate face. She tried to rise, but her legs faltered. "Lieutenant, you shouldn't have," she began, but interrupted with a shaky laugh, grim yet warm. "Princess, don't talk, move now." He grabbed her arm and pulled her behind cover just as another volley of energy blasts tore through the ruined plaza. The human soldiers nearby were falling, some screaming, some silent, all caught in the impossible crossfire. Felt the weight of every life lost, of every second wasted, and yet his focus never wavered from her. Breathing was shallow, and he noticed the tremor in her hands as she tried to steady herself. He had seen fear before, plenty of times, but this was different. This was the fear of someone who had never been hunted for survival, someone who had always been protected, someone who now realized that the world could break around her like glass. "Lieutenant, why did you?" she asked softly, almost a whisper, her voice trembling. "Because no one should die while I'm still standing," said simply, tightening his grip around her arm. He could feel the heat of his own blood pumping through his veins, the sting from his burns, and the ache of his muscles screaming in protest. But he ignored them. All that mattered was that she lived. They moved carefully across the plaza, dodging shattered walls and smoldering debris, moving toward the evacuation point that their allies had marked. But the enemy was relentless. Drones swooped from above, their sensors locking onto them with deadly precision. Lifted his shield again, taking hits meant for every impact, sending jolts of pain through his body. He gritted his teeth, focusing on her terrified eyes. He could hear her muttering prayers in her native tongue, words he didn't understand but felt the weight of. Finally, they reached a temporary barricade where other human soldiers were trying to hold their line. Pushed behind the makeshift wall, then turned to face the advancing drones. "Go, run to the shuttle," he yelled, his voice cracking but carrying through the smoke. She hesitated, her small hand gripping his arm. You saved me. You don't have to." "Princess, there's no choice," he said, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Now go." She hesitated for a heartbeat longer, and in that moment a beam of energy sliced through the air where she had been just seconds before. Threw himself forward, taking the full impact to his chest. Pain exploded through him, his body slamming into the rubble, but screamed and ran, her sobs cutting through the battlefield noise. Lay there, vision blurred, blood mixing with dust, yet he didn't regret a second. Even as the drones circled closer, he felt a strange, fragile pride. He had done what he had been trained to do, but also something beyond training, something that felt like the instinct of humanity, to protect another life, even if it meant his own. And somewhere in the distance, above the chaos, a voice called out, not from the battlefield, but from the skis, a voice that would change everything. "Lives because of him," it whispered, trembling with authority and something fiercer. "And now he shall not die." Didn't know who spoke. He didn't know if he could survive the next moment. But for the first time in hours, he allowed himself a flicker of hope, even as the world around him seemed determined to end. Woke to the sound of rushing water, though at first he thought it was the hum of his own blood in his ears. Pain lanced through his chest and arm, but it was not unbearable. He blinked, squinting against a bright, white light, and realized he was lying in a small chamber made of smooth, glowing material that seemed alive. The air smelled faintly of metal and flowers, an odd alien combination. He tried to move, and a soft hiss of energy accompanied his movement, as though the room itself was aware of him. "Easy, don't push yourself," a voice said. It was calm but carried authority. His head turned sharply to see standing near a floating console, her hair catching the light like spun silver. Her eyes widened at the sight of him awake, and relief washed over her small, elegant features. She rushed to his side, kneeling beside him. You're awake." "I'm still breathing," said, his voice hoarse. Pain stabbed through his ribs with every word, but he smiled faintly. His hands hovered above his wounds, glowing faintly with energy that shimmered like liquid light. "The medics, they said," she swallowed, her throat tight. "They said you might not make it. She hesitated, fighting to hold back tears. "I didn't think anyone would save me like that." Shook his head weakly. "I had to. It was the right thing. Doesn't matter if I live or die. You matter more." He tried to sit up, but she placed her hands firmly on his shoulders, gently pushing him back. "You're not just anyone, Lieutenant," she said softly, almost a whisper. "I've seen soldiers fight, but no one has ever risked themselves like you did, for me, for my life." Her eyes glistened. I can't let you die." Managed a dry laugh, though it was painful. "Princess, don't talk like that, I'm not." "You will not speak that way again?" she interrupted, her voice stronger now, almost commanding, though it trembled with emotion. "I am the princess, yes, but I am also your queen-in-waiting, and as long as I have breath, no harm will come to you. You saved me, and now I will not allow your death." The words struck harder than any weapon had. He had fought for humanity, yes, for survival, but no one had ever promised him life like this. Not for bravery, not for duty. The weight of gratitude, awe, and something unnameable pressed down on him. The chamber doors slid open with a soft hiss, and a group of alien medics entered. Their skin shimmered in muted colors, their movements precise yet graceful. Stepped back but remained near, her gaze never leaving him. The medics' instruments hovered over his wounds, scanning and sending pulses of energy that soothed his pain. As the treatment continued, his mind wandered. He remembered the screams of the battlefield, the chaos, the soldiers who hadn't made it. He had thought dying for was inevitable, a small price for her survival. And now here she was, standing over him, refusing to let that happen, refusing to let the universe take him. Hours passed. The sun, or what humans would call the star, began to rise over the alien city, casting violet and gold streaks across the chamber walls. Felt strength returning bit by bit, though each movement reminded him of the battle he had endured. Didn't leave. She simply sat beside him, her hands occasionally brushing his arm, her presence a tether to life itself. "I never knew a human could be like this," she murmured quietly, almost to herself. "So fragile and yet so unbreakable. You carry courage not just in your actions, but in your heart." Coughed a low, raspy sound and smiled faintly at her words. "You make it sound like I'm a hero." "You are," she said simply, her eyes locking onto his with unwavering conviction. "And heroes, they deserve more than death. You will stay alive, I swear it." Something shifted inside him then. It wasn't just the healing energy or the alien technology. It was her unwavering determination, her refusal to accept loss, her insistence that he had value beyond the battlefield. For the first time since that ambush, felt more than survival instinct. He felt hope. Real hope. Stood suddenly walking to the window that overlooked the city. "They will regroup," she said softly, "and the enemy, they will come again. But next time you will not face them alone." Followed her gaze, seeing the alien towers bathed in dawn light, the city slowly waking after a night of terror. He felt small and human in that vastness, yet tethered to something far greater, a bond that transcended species, a promise that life could still matter. And in that moment he realized, the battle outside had ended, but a new one had begun, one of trust, loyalty, and something stronger than fear. Something that would change both their worlds forever. Thought he had survived the worst, but survival on this world was only the beginning. Within hours, the calm of the dawn was shattered by a warning siren, a sound that vibrated through the glowing walls of the palace. He leapt to his feet unsteady, while his expression hardened. Her hand gripped his arm, not in fear, but in command. "They've found us," she said, her voice calm but urgent. "The enemy never forgets. You saved me once, but if we do not act now, everything will be lost." Nodded, trying to hide the tremor in his legs. He was still weak from his injuries, but instinct and training surged through him. "Lead the way," he said. Guided him through winding corridors of the palace, corridors that seemed alive, walls shimmering with energy as though responding to her presence. Outside, the alien city was a battlefield once again. Drones and ground troops had begun their advance, and the citizens, many unaware of the imminent danger, looked on in panic. They reached a balcony overlooking the central plaza. His human mind tried to process the scale of the attack. The enemy's forces were immense, organized, and relentless. "We can't hold them all," he said, fear clawing at his chest. Turned to him, her eyes blazing. "Then we will not hold them alone, we will strike at their command. You," she paused, taking a deep breath, "you will come with me. I cannot lead this assault without you by my side. You saved my life once, and now you must save the city, save my people." His heart pounded. He had survived death on the battlefield, but now the weight of responsibility pressed on him like a mountain. "I'm just a soldier," he said, shaking his head. "I don't know if I—" "You are more than that," she interrupted, stepping close. "You are human courage, you are loyalty, you are the reason I am alive. That is enough. I will not let you hide behind doubt while the world burns." Her words ignited something deep within him, a spark he hadn't felt since the first day of the ambush. He straightened, drawing on his resolve. "Then we do this together." They moved swiftly, leading him through secret passages only the royal family knew, emerging behind the enemy lines. Senses were on fire, every sound, every shadow, every vibration alerting him to danger, but moved with a calm precision, her aura of authority making even him feel safe. Suddenly, a squad of enemy soldiers rounded the corner, raised her hand, and an invisible energy barrier flared up, halting their advance. Instinctively raised his weapon, taking out the remaining threat with sharp, practiced precision. He felt a surge of admiration for her, not just for her power, but for her composure under pressure. "Impressive," he said, trying for a smile that didn't quite reach his exhausted features. Tilted her head, a hint of amusement crossing her face. "I only know how to survive because I have people who trust me, and now I trust you." Hours passed like minutes as they infiltrated deeper, dismantling the enemy's control points. His injuries throbbed with every step, but never let him falter. She adjusted her pace to his, occasionally touching his shoulder, guiding him, silently reminding him he was not alone. Finally, they reached the command hub, a massive structure pulsing with enemy energy. The leader of the assault, a monstrous figure clad in dark armor, turned to face them, eyes glowing with malice. "So the human dares to walk into my city," it snarled. Stepped forward, energy coiling around her like a living storm. "This human saved my life," she said, her voice carrying over the chaos. "And because of that, he will not die today or any day I command. Step aside or face the consequences." Felt a chill as he stood beside her, knowing the threat was immense. Yet, for the first time, fear did not control him. Determination, her unwavering faith in him, gave him courage beyond reason. The enemy attacked and the battle began. Energy clashed, sparks flew, and moved as if the pain in his body did not exist. He shielded with his own body whenever the enemy struck, each moment reminding him of why he could not fail. She fought with an elegance and power that took his breath away, yet she always looked to him, relying on him, trusting him. In the heart of the chaos, understood something profound. Life was fragile, and yet courage was contagious. His faith in him had become a lifeline, and his determination to protect her had become their shield. Together, they were more than soldier and princess. They were a force capable of changing fate itself. And as the final wave of the enemy surged forward, realized that survival was no longer about him. It was about something larger, something eternal. For humanity and for the promise she had made, he would not die while she lived. The battle had left the city in ruins, but the enemy was relentless. Smoke curled through the streets like living shadows, and the cries of injured citizens echoed across the broken towers. Moved carefully, each step a struggle against the lingering pain in his chest, yet he refused to falter. Stayed close, her aura casting a protective glow that seemed to bend light around them. She did not speak much now, letting action and presence convey her command, but every glance she gave him carried reassurance and expectation. They reached a ruined plaza where the enemy forces had concentrated their power. A massive cannon, pulsing with deadly energy, pointed toward the city center. His gut twisted. If it fired, thousands could die in an instant. "We stop that," said determination hardening her features. She gestured to him, and he understood immediately. They would approach together, using stealth and strategy rather than brute force. As they moved, felt his own vulnerability sharply. The battle had weakened him, and every movement reminded him of the wound in his chest, the one that still burned like fire. He glanced at. She was moving with elegance and speed, her strength undiminished by exhaustion, and yet she paused, glancing at him. "You're slower than before," she noted softly. "Lean on me if you must. I will not let you fall." Her words were simple, yet their weight crushed him with emotion. Someone, an alien princess no less, was willing to carry his weakness as her own. He swallowed hard, nodding. I'll do my best," he said, voice hoarse. They slipped behind debris, avoiding the gaze of enemy patrols. When one drone hovered too close, instinctively raised his shield, taking the brunt of a laser blast meant for. Sparks flew across his armor, but she only glanced at him, unflinching. "We have no time for pain," she said. "Focus on the mission. Focus on life." Felt an unusual swell of warmth in his chest. Life. She had said that as if his survival mattered as much as the city. He had never known a leader who valued a single human like that. They reached the cannon, a monstrous construct of alien design. His hands glowed, weaving energy that made the air around them shimmer. "Cover me," she said. "I cannot disable this alone." Planted himself between her and the enemy guards rushing toward them. Every blow, every attack he absorbed, every shot he blocked was for her. He realized in that moment that he no longer feared death, he feared failing her. That fear, sharper and fiercer than any enemy weapon, made him faster, stronger, more aware. His focus was unbroken, energy flaring in arcs that danced around her hands, and slowly the cannon began to crack and spark, metal bending under her power. The enemy leader appeared, his monstrous form towering above them. He sneered at. "You protect her too well, human. You think you can stand against me." Tightened his grip on his weapon, raising his shield. "I don't think," he said, voice steady. "I know." The fight was brutal. The leader's energy blasts tore through the plaza, hurling debris, but stood firm. He shielded as she unleashed a concentrated burst of energy that shattered the cannon, sending shockwaves across the plaza. The enemy leader roared in rage, but she didn't flinch. She turned too. Together. With a nod, they charged, struck with precision and power while blocked, dodged, and supported, ensuring no strike reached her. Each moment was a symphony of trust, of unspoken understanding. They moved as one, human courage and alien strength intertwined. Finally, the leader fell, stunned by their combined assault. The remaining forces scattered, unable to regroup under his relentless aura and unwavering defense. The plaza fell silent, broken only by distant alarms and the moans of the injured. Dropped to one knee, chest heaving, sweat and blood mixing on his face. Knelt beside him, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. "You are alive," she said, her voice soft, almost reverent. "You will not die, not while I breathe. You protected me, now I protect you." Looked at her, the weight of her promise settling over him. In the chaos of war, he had risked everything for her, and now she, the alien princess, refused to let the world take him. His heart swelled with gratitude, awe, and a strange warmth that filled the hollows of his fear. For the first time, he understood what she meant when she said courage was contagious. It wasn't just about weapons or power. It was about belief, trust, and the unyielding will to stand together against impossible odds. Rose, extending her hand to him. "Come," she said, her eyes fierce and kind at once. "The city may be saved, but there is more to do, and you will face it by my side." He took her hand, feeling strength pass through him, not from energy shields or alien power, but from the bond they had forged in battle. He had shielded her once, risking his life without hesitation. Now, in a quiet but profound truth, he realized. She had shielded him, too, not with a shield of metal or energy, but with a promise that he would not be lost. And for the first time since the war began, felt the impossible. A life worth fighting for beyond survival, a future shared with someone who refused to let him die. The city had quieted, but knew it was only temporary. His muscles ached, his chest still throbbed from old wounds, and every instinct screamed that danger could return at any moment. Moved beside him, her steps graceful, yet there was a tension in her posture that matched his own. The princess had survived countless battles, but he could see worry flicker across her violet eyes. Not for herself, for him. "They won't give up," she said softly, her voice carrying across the plaza. "They think if they break your body, they break my spirit too, but they are wrong." Managed a tired smile, though it barely touched the shadow of pain in his chest. "They've already tried," he muttered, "and failed." Knelt beside a destroyed communication hub, tapping the controls with precision. "I'm sending a message to the remaining forces. Reinforcements will arrive. But in the meantime," she stood, placing a hand gently on his shoulder. "You rest. I will not let you face this alone." Shook his head, refusing. "I've survived this far, I can't just—" "You've survived because of me," she said, cutting him off, eyes blazing. "Now it's my turn. Your life is not yours alone, do you understand?" He felt an odd mixture of awe and humility. No one, not a commander, not a fellow soldier, had ever spoken to him like this. And yet it was not condescending. It was a declaration, a promise. He nodded silently. Hours passed, and the enemy made their move. This time they struck from above, dropping a swarm of stealth drones that buzzed like angry hornets, impossible to see until they were nearly upon them. Raised his shield, deflecting a blast aimed its chest. Sparks erupted, blinding him momentarily, and he felt the sting of burns on his arm, raw and searing. "Move," he shouted, grabbing her wrist and pulling her behind cover, barely flinched. Instead, she focused, her hands glowing as energy wrapped around the drones, sending them tumbling from the sky in controlled bursts. "I told you," she said, almost smiling, "you will not die." Couldn't speak. His chest heaved, his body screaming for rest, yet he felt a profound, almost indescribable strength radiating from her. She wasn't just fighting for herself anymore. She was fighting for him, and he realized then that every instinct, every choice he had made to protect her, had built this bond, this unspoken promise of life. A massive shadow loomed over them suddenly. A new enemy warship descended from the clouds, its weapons locked onto the city. His face hardened. "They think they can scare us," she said, voice like steel. "They do not understand humanity or me." Stood beside her, raising his shield, feeling the warmth of her hand brush his arm as she stepped forward. "We fight together," she said. "No one touches you, not now, not ever." The attack came swiftly, energy beams tearing through the plaza. Blocked, deflected, moved instinctively, yet he realized the exhaustion threatening to swallow him. Noticed immediately. She dropped her energy shield for a moment and placed both hands on his chest and shoulders, glowing faintly. A surge of healing energy passed through him, soothing burns, easing the pain, and bolstering his strength. "You are human," she said softly, almost to herself. "Fragile yet unbreakable when it matters most. I will not let this world take you." His throat tightened. He had fought countless battles, faced death more times than he could count, yet he had never known someone would refuse to let him die. Not a commander, not a healer, not a friend. Only the alien princess, the future queen, had seen him as more than a soldier. She had seen his worth, his courage, and had made it hers to protect. Together, they moved like a single force, dodging fire, taking out threats, and rallying the surviving defenders. Civilians fled to safety under his guidance, but her eyes never left. Each time he faltered, she was there, steadying him, keeping him alive. At last, the enemy warship retreated, its drones destroyed, its firepower diminished. The city trembled with silence and relief, broken only by distant alarms. Sank to his knees, exhausted, but knelt beside him, hands still glowing faintly, eyes unwavering. "You survived," she whispered. "You will continue to survive because I will not let you die. You shielded me once. Now I shield you with everything I have." Looked at her, the weight of her promise pressing deep into his soul. For the first time, he understood the truth of courage, of loyalty, of a bond that transcended species, planets, and war itself. It was not just about fighting. It was about refusing to let someone you care about vanish from the world. And in that quiet, dangerous city, amidst ruin and victory, realized something he had never believed before. He was alive not just by chance, but because someone chose to keep him alive, with the same fierceness he had once shown her. He smiled faintly, pain and relief mingling, and whispered, "Then I guess I have to keep living." His hand tightened on his shoulder. "Yes, and we will face everything together." The aftermath of the battle was quiet, almost eerie. Smoke still curled from broken buildings, and fires burned slowly in the distance. Sat on a low wall, his armor battered, his chest still sore, but for the first time in hours he felt safe, at least for a moment. Stood beside him, her hands folded, her gaze distant as she watched the city's survivors regroup. She had won the fight, but the cost had been clear in the weary faces of soldiers and citizens alike. "Are you sure you're all right?" she asked softly, turning to him. Her violet eyes searched his face, filled with concern that went beyond mere curiosity. It was care. Deep care that refused to let him be invisible even after all he had done. Shrugged, trying to hide the fatigue and pain. "I'll survive," he said, forcing a small smile. "I always do." Shook her head, stepping closer. "Not this time," she said firmly. "I will not let you risk your life like that again. You shielded me once, but you are not invincible, and I refuse to let you die. Do you understand?" Her words struck him differently now. Before, he had believed his courage and duty were enough. Now he understood her promise was more than words. It was a declaration. She would protect him as fiercely as he had protected her. It was a bond that surpassed command or rank. It was personal. Before he could reply, a soft hum filled the air. His hand glowed faintly as she raised it, scanning the plaza. "The Queen is here," she said, voice low but powerful. "She insisted on seeing you immediately." His heart tightened. The Queen's mother was known for her decisiveness, her power, and her unyielding rules. To be summoned was an honor, but also a warning. Yet as he followed through the palace corridors, he felt something unexpected. Hope. Hope that the promise she had made to protect him was not empty. They entered a grand chamber, its walls adorned with shimmering murals of alien history. At the center sat the Queen herself, her presence radiating authority and calm. Her eyes, sharp and intelligent, settled on. He swallowed hard, unsure whether to bow or stand. Placed a reassuring hand on his arm. "You saved my daughter's life," the Queen said, her voice steady but commanding. "And in doing so, you have earned my attention. Tell me, why should I allow you to remain in my service? Why should I not let the universe reclaim a life so fragile?" Took a deep breath. "Because I would do it again," he said simply, meeting her gaze. "I don't fight for glory. I fight for those who cannot protect themselves. I fought for Princess because she mattered to me, and I would do the same for anyone in need." The Queen studied him for a long moment. Then slowly a faint smile touched her lips. "You are human," she said softly, almost as if tasting the word. "Fragile, stubborn, reckless, but also brave, and you are not alone in your choices, has chosen to shield you in turn. That is rare, that is worth preserving." Felt an unfamiliar warmth spread through him. To have his courage recognized by someone so powerful, someone who had seen countless lives lost, was overwhelming. And yet more than recognition, it was validation, proof that his instinct to protect had meaning beyond survival. Stepped closer, bowing slightly. "Mother, he is more than a soldier. He is the reason I live today. I will not let him die." The Queen's gaze softened, and she reached out to place a hand over us. "So it shall be. You will not die," she said, her voice echoing with authority and something warmer, approval, perhaps even affection. "Your life is bound to ours now. You shielded my daughter, now she shields you. That bond cannot be broken." Swallowed hard, overwhelmed. In the span of a few hours, his world had shifted from survival on a battlefield to a life intertwined with alien royalty, a promise of protection that logic, culture, and even the universe itself. He looked at whose eyes sparkled with relief and determination. She had chosen him. Her mother had chosen him. And in their world, that was more than protection, it was life itself. Realized then that courage was not only about facing death. It was about earning the right to live, to matter, to be remembered. And in that room, surrounded by alien light and solemn authority, he knew he had earned it. His hand squeezed his gently. "We face the future together," she whispered, "and I will never let you fall." Nodded, a rare, quiet smile spreading across his face. For the first time in what felt like a lifetime, he allowed himself to believe it. He would live because someone refused to let him die. The city was quiet now, but the weight of the battle lingered like a shadow, stood at the balcony of the palace, overlooking streets still by fire and debris. He could see survivors helping each other, rebuilding and cautiously stepping into a world that had almost been lost. Despite the destruction, there was life, and for him, that life had a new meaning. Joined him silently, her hand brushing against his. He turned, meeting her gaze, and saw in her violet eyes a mixture of relief, pride, and something deeper, trust. Not the casual trust of allies, but a bond forged in the fire of combat, tested in moments where life and death balanced on a knife's edge. "You've done more than save me," she said softly, her voice trembling with emotion. "You've reminded me that life is worth fighting for." He shook his head, humbled. "I only did what I had to. You were in danger. I couldn't." "You risked everything for me," she interrupted gently, her hand resting over his heart. "And now I will risk everything for you, not as a princess, not as a soldier, but as someone who refuses to let you die, ever." His chest tightened. Her words were simple, yet they carried a weight that dwarfed any command, any strategy, any victory. To have someone, an alien princess, a future queen, declare that his life was not his alone was overwhelming. For the first time, he felt the full weight of being valued, not for skill or duty, but for simply being alive. The queen entered then, her presence calm yet commanding, filling the balcony with authority. She studied for a long moment, her eyes softening as she reached out, placing her hand over his. "He is more than human," she said, her voice resonating. "He is courage, he is loyalty, and because my daughter has chosen to protect him, I declare that he will not die, not by enemy hands, not by chance, and not by fate itself. Your life is bound to ours, Lieutenant. Guard it well, for it is now sacred." Swallowed, feeling a surge of gratitude so strong it left him almost breathless. He looked at, whose small hand rested over hers on his arm, and realized that their bond was no longer defined by battlefield survival alone. It was a living promise, unbreakable, powerful, and eternal. He thought back to that first moment, when a plasma bolt had threatened life, and he had thrown himself into its path without hesitation. Every scar, every bruise, every ache in his body now felt like proof that courage mattered, that choices mattered, and that life could be worth more than mere survival. His voice cut through his reverie. "Come," she said, a hint of a smile on her lips. "We have a world to protect and a future to build together." Nodded, finally allowing himself to relax, to feel safe, even as the weight of his experiences lingered. The city below was a testament to survival, but it was also a testament to choice. The choice to fight, to protect, to refuse to give up. And now that choice was returned to him. The queen's hand, her gaze lingering on him as she spoke. "Remember this, human, you are not alone. You will face trials, yes, but you will never face them without those who care for you, has chosen you, and I have chosen to honor that. You are ours in a way few humans ever experience. Guard your life as fiercely as you guard others." Felt a strange warmth, something heavier than pride, something stronger than relief. It was the knowledge that courage was recognized, that bravery was valued, and that loyalty could create bonds stronger than fear or death. Stepped closer, brushing a strand of silver-blue hair from her face. "We fight together, you shielded me, and now I shield you. No matter the enemy, no matter the cost, you will live." He smiled faintly, the pain in his chest easing, the scars in his mind quieting, at least for a moment. "Then I'll keep fighting with you," he said. As the sun dipped low over the city, casting violet and gold across the shattered streets, understood something profound. Courage was not just action, it was choice. Life was not just survival, it was worth defending. And love, in its many forms, could be a shield stronger than any armor. He had shielded the alien princess once, risking everything, and now she and her mother, the queen, had shielded him in return. And in that reciprocity, he found something he had never expected: hope. Hope that tomorrow would be brighter. Hope that he had a place in the universe. Hope that he would live not just to fight, but to matter, to belong, and to be remembered. And for the first time allowed himself to believe it. He would not die, not now, not ever. He stood tall, shoulders squared, eyes forward. Beside him, his hand found his again. Together they faced the horizon, and together they would survive anything the universe dared to throw at them.